So since the summer, we've been in pretty constant conversation about the need to do some preventative pool testing. It wasn't pool testing at the time, but some kind of surveillance testing to see who's coming in our buildings. Are the kids or the adults asymptomatic carriers, and how can we eliminate them, find out who they are, eliminate them, go home, go see your doctor, get better, then come back, so that we know that, or we're reasonably assured that the people that are actually in the building are well and not spreading the virus, right? So it took a number of factors, and a key factor is financing. It's not cheap to do this, but the cost of testing did come down, and there's a will. This has been going on, and so they heard our voices, and here we are. We're talking about who's eligible. A school district or an individual school that raises their hand and says, I want to do this, right? If you have any kind of in-person learning happening, it can be hybrid. It could even be small populations of students that are coming into school. And this is for public schools. So any districts, charter schools, approved special education schools, and collaboratives can participate in this. There will be test kits that are supplied by the Department of Education, and all the support personnel, the service providers, and the tracking software will be provided from DESE at no cost to the schools that want this until March 28th. Okay, so it's about 6 weeks of testing. Now that's I think a great start for us to see whether or not this is a program we want to continue with. After the 6 weeks, the districts can decide whether or not they want to continue it, and they would be responsible for the cost. And we have CARES money still available to districts that they can use to do this pool testing if they choose, okay? But I really wholeheartedly encourage everyone to participate, at least in the first 6 weeks. I think this may be a way to interrupt the spread of the virus. So participating districts have to arrange for follow-up testing, either what the state provides, which is Binax now, or a different testing provider if the pool testing shows that one of them is a positive. So the pool testing itself gives you a response in 24 to 48 hours, and they're in bunches of, I think, 10. And if there's a positive in that 10, then those 10 people will be notified to do a follow-up, very quick test. It's only 15 minutes, and we'll know who among the 10 is the actual positive, or perhaps more than one. And they call it pool testing because they pool dosages together, tests together, and it's much less expensive to batch the testing. And that's how it's coming to us. So it's about $50 per pool sample, about 10 swabs. There are some monthly startup fees, but all of this is covered initially by the Department of Education. And I really hope everybody here is going to do it. We have, 355 districts in Massachusetts, I think. And let's see, how many, about 120, I think, are scheduled to start soon, next week probably.
Right. And just an important note that while the state is paying for it for the first 6 weeks, the federal money that President Biden has approved that is earmarked specifically for COVID relief to schools, there's $800 million coming to Massachusetts, can be used to pick up the cost after the state money runs out. And actually, the MTA has done a breakdown by municipality about how much federal money is going to your schools. I think we can put that that site, that link up on the screen. So you can go to our website, find how much federal money is coming to your school, and that can cover the pool testing. The other thing that I want to note to all MTA members out there, we want to urge you to urge your superintendents and school committees to participate in this surveillance testing program. Be at the table. You do have rights. You should have a say in how this rolls out. Be at the negotiating table with your superintendent to bargain over two very simple basics: who will administer the test and who will oversee it, and then ensure that there's a stipend or compensation for the staff who are administrating it and overseeing the program, and work with your field reps. The MTA has model contract language that you can use to make sure that the program gets bargained. And on that note, I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to welcome Michelle Larecy and Linda Lindsey. We're going to start off with Michelle. She's going to give us firsthand experience as a school nurse in Watertown about how this program is actually set up and how it works. And then we'll hear from Linda about what it's like as an educator to be on the receiving end. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. So we've been planning this when we shut down. March 12th, March 13th is kind of when everything closed down and the world came to a screeching halt. And we started planning our reentry back in the spring. So we knew we were going to be doing testing by the end of summer. We had it up and running by September. Granted, Watertown is a smaller district. We have less than 2,100 students and around 400 staff members. But we had high need students start in September right off the bat. And we actually started by offering individual PCR testing. That's the lower nasal swabs, not the one that goes all the way up and back, the nasopharyngeal ones that tickle your brain. We had the lower nasal swabs, so super easy. The staff does it themselves. It was great peace of mind knowing that you are either starting the week off knowing that you are coming to work safe, or ending the week knowing that you're going home to your family safe. So that was a huge proponent with, I think, the comfort level of getting everyone back in school. We, like probably most schools, have cohort days. So it's cohort A, cohort B, one fully remote day just to keep everything even. And we actually started our pool testing right around Halloween. So I think that's been 12-ish weeks now. In that time, we've had 9 positive pools in that time frame, which means that I know you've already kind of explained the system, but we swab 10 kids at a time, and they are put into a tube, preferably kids who are all together in the same classroom. That way we kind of know who's been around each other. We're eliminating, casting a wider net, so it's kind of more centralized. And if we get a positive pool, we actually have the students return the next day and they do the individual testing with the staff. And we work with a lab in Cambridge, the Broad Institute and CIC in Cambridge. So we're able to get our results usually within 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours if there's a backup. But it works great because then we're not keeping the kids out of in-person learning any longer than need be. I know other districts probably may not have the ability to have the students come and retest, but then they can go to any of the Stop the Spread sites, anything that's set up by public health. And I have a couple of notes. I know people were talking in the comments about the retesting expense. It actually is a lot more cost effective to do the pool testing than the individualized testing. The individual tests can run like $55 per person, as opposed to the pool test where you're paying about $10 per child. So if you have a good sign up and we can get them back in, the cost has actually been phenomenal. And I know the peace of mind that comes for our staff and our students even, it can't. So the funding is well worth it. And honestly, the kids don't even mind it. They come out, they have it down pat. I can test a class of 10 kids in under 3 minutes at this point. They come out, they blow their nose, they sanitize, they swab, they get a chance to chit chat. It's so seamless, and it's become such an easy part of their day that they all only have to do one time per week. They can go home. They know that they're safe in school. The teachers know that they're in a classroom that is safe. And we've caught 9 asymptomatic students since we started. So that's almost 1 student a week at least that we have kept spread from happening within the classroom. So we're able to identify them, quarantine them, contact trace for them. And it's I'm just really happy that we've been able to get the ball up and rolling. And I really, really hope that other districts are going to be able to get it going for them as well.
Michelle, I may have told you I'm a kindergarten teacher. I've taught kindergarten, first, second, third grade all of my life. And working with young kids, it always takes them longer to manage things. How are the youngest students in Watertown actually managing the testing, and what kind of support are they getting?
We actually had one little girl today who said that getting her nose swabbed was the highlight of her week. And we were like, honey, you got to get out more. But she was super cute. So Massachusetts actually changed it so children of any age can actually swab themselves, as before it was 14 years or older. So now at my level, at the middle school level and above, everyone does their own swabs. Fifth grade does their own swabs, but it's a little bit faster if we do it for the little kids. So they come up to us, they pull down their mask. We do 3 swabs each side. The test is done in under 5 seconds. And I think it kind of, everyone wants to be included. So even the kids who aren't testing, I think when they see that their friends are testing, it's getting them to ask their parents to sign them up, which is awesome. Right now we have a total of 1,187 students that we test every week, and just over 380 staff that we're testing every week.
Wow. And so what did the district have to do to get that much participation on behalf of parents?
Just sending out the word. We attach the link for signing up to almost every email that goes out. We've had it translated into all of the major languages that are spoken in Watertown. We work with the teachers. Each teacher, we kind of say, hey, your class on this cohort day doesn't seem to have a really high sign-up rate. Can you talk about it more? If you email the parents or chat with the parent, can you just recommend it? I think we're actually leaning towards making it hopefully mandatory for sports, if you want to participate in sports, to do pool testing, because that's we haven't seen any in-school spread. The only spread we've seen has been amongst sports team, where they're hanging out after games and after practice, which is kind of something that's a little bit out of our control. But if we can at least test all of them, we can catch who's asymptomatic quickly, and hopefully I want the spread to be 0, ideally, with the kids.
When you say 9 people that you've caught as asymptomatic, I don't know what the exponential number is of that, but if you think of those 9 continuing on with life, not knowing, I just wonder how many extended family members in the community really could have been affected by those 9.
And we've had 18 positive staff members that we've caught, and we've been doing it for about 20 weeks for staff. And almost all of those staff did not either maybe had an inkling if they were a close contact, or didn't even know that they were symptomatic or carrying. So that was other ways we've been able to. And like I said, we've had absolutely 0 in-school spread. So during the school day in the classroom, we've had no spread. And then the only issues have kind of been with the sports team. And that's the kids who carpool and they take their masks off when they're driving home together. And that's a little outside what we can control, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right.
That
Jessica,
takes education. Yeah.
So there's a question from Sarah Dion about pool testing. When people test positive in the rapid test, they'll be sent home in the middle of the day. Like, what happens to that?
So we kind of have our cohort set up where our cohort A and cohort B alternate. So we don't have cohort A coming in 2 days and then a break and then cohort B. So we actually have a 24-hour grace period to get our results back. And then we call the parents and say, hi, your student tested positive in a positive pool. Could you please come in tomorrow morning? We're going to provide you a test and you'll have your results, and hopefully they can come back to school the following day. If we do get the Binax rapid testing, we'll be able to test them right then and there. And hopefully we'll get the positive results within 15 minutes, half an hour, depends how fast the Binax results will turn around. And then those kids can just come right into school, everyone who's negative. And then the positive person would start their 10-day isolation at home. We'd contact trace for who they've been closely around and go from there.
And, Jessica Harris put a comment just in reaction. She said, it doesn't sound too traumatic. I think she was talking about for students. Was it in the beginning? Like, what was the transition period like?
Oh, it was It was so easy. There was, I think the very first day, all the kids thought it was the brain tickling one. And then one guy was like, you guys can pick your noses further than this stick is going to go.
Especially if you're in
"Oh,
kindergarten.
Yep. And
They're experts.
We haven't had an issue with any students saying that there's been discomfort. If anything, a lot of the kids whose parents have yet to sign them up are kind of upset that they can't get tested, but we unfortunately can't do it without parental consent under the age of 18.
Right. And to be clear, Michelle, we are still saying masks and distancing and, you know, the protocols of minimizing how many people are in a room at a time and leaving the mask on except to eat, and at certain areas, a mask break. Linda told me a mask break, you go outside, right? We can't forget that we have to have all the mitigation remedies in place.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I will touch base. I just see one comment about how we can be sure there's no asymptomatic spreading. Because we're doing the pool testing weekly, if we have someone who tests positive one week and then we test that classroom the following week with those kids and there's no one else testing positive, that's how we know.
Right.
You know, and I see another comment from Paula Berry. Why is the superintendent not interested in pool testing? I was shocked to read the Southeast Coast newspaper that New Bedford, I think Fairhaven, Acushnet, a handful of districts, the school committees and superintendents are saying no because it's a resource issue. This is why you need a union. Unionized educators need to reach out to families. Families and educators have to push collectively to say, we want this if we want our schools to be open. And then we have to fight forward together for the funding. There is federal funding coming to your district, so we cannot allow the excuse of no funding to be the reason why we don't do this. And if for real the funding runs out, we have an initiative across Massachusetts to fight for progressive revenues coming out of the State House so that we can give aid like this to the schools who need it.
Right. And I want to point out that it's still, even though the deadline to sign up, it was a very loose deadline if your districts are not in, but they hear that another district is having success at this, you can still sign up. They have said very clearly to us that they're not going to turn people away if there's an earnest interest. And at the end of 6 weeks, if your district doesn't want to continue, then they don't have to. It's not a long-term contract. The 6 weeks is free. So maybe we should bring Linda Lindsey in here.
Yeah, let's go to Linda as soon as Michelle can answer Lourdes's question, because it is a technical thing that does have an answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, at this point, you could technically do unsupervised testing without a nurse present, which is good, I guess, if you can get volunteers. We've had a couple parent volunteers who are nurses come in and help, but you can delegate the sample collecting to non-medical staff and just kind of have the nurse supervise everything, which is good. Especially now that the kids can swab themselves. Technically, you're not doing any invasive procedure. And once we have parental consent, you can set it up for the kids to do it themselves, as long as there's someone who's supervising, saying that it's, being collected in a safe and clean way. Not necessarily completely sterile like you're in an operating room, but in a clean and safe way.
Right. So Linda, what's it like for you to be on the receiving end as an educator and not the nurse having to run the program?
Well, we started our testing on December 8th, in which it was all staff. The superintendent said he needed at least 75 to 80% of the staff to agree with it in order for it to be affordable for the town. So we test every week. It's the PCR test, that Michelle was talking about. We administer it ourselves. We go to the office, we get our kit. Most of us do it at home and bring it in on a Monday morning. The superintendent's staff come around to each school. We have a a time allotment, and we scan our QR code. They scan the little vial with the little swab in it, and it goes off to be tested. And 2 days later, we get the results. The superintendent gets the results from the testing company, and then he sends out like a blanket email that, you know, everybody, the past, I want to say 3 or 4 emails, everyone's been negative. And if there is a positive, the principal of the school sends out an email to the school staff to say that somebody has tested positive, all contacts have been, contact tracing has been done. And, you know, if you're a close contact, you would be notified. So it has been, it's been successful. I don't know how many are doing it because I'm only in the memorial, the little school, the elementary school, but I want to say about 90%, 95% of the elementary teachers are doing it. Our school is 2, 3, 4, and we've only had so far 2 positive cases from the staff testing. Student testing, they had a webinar a couple of weeks ago. He sent out permission for the kids to start getting tested. And that's supposed to start next week. He also, and Michelle, you may know more about this than I do. He talked about there's going to be antigen testing in the nurse's office if either the staff or the kids don't feel well. They can go down and be tested, and I guess it's what, 15 or 20 minutes maybe for the result.
A quick turnaround. The only tricky thing with that is the antigens would have to be present and they'd have to be symptomatic. Those tests can be a little wishy-washy, but they're still better than nothing, and you can get.
It was like, you know, I don't, for the child, I don't feel good, you know, so they can go down to the nurse's office and get that test, and then results, you know, the nurse would probably, you know, call the home or whatever. The reaction is really good. I mean, the teachers want to keep going with this. And the superintendent said we're going to keep testing until we're all vaccinated. So it's going to go on. And he is definitely pushing for the vaccination. Our town bought a freezer so that they can store the vaccines. And this is for the whole town. So, you know, the DPW, fire, all that can all be tested. We have air purifiers in our room that run 24 hours a day. They, you know, change the filters. There's a light that goes on. So the staff comes in, they change the filters. We have boxes of masks. We have boxes of gloves. We have, you know, antibacterial spray to shields.
And Linda, when you're saying this, I hear money, 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 money. Your district had to make a commitment early on to make an investment. And I think you told me they already, in addition to having portable ventilators, they did some fix on your ventilation in the whole school too.
Yes,
right?
The unit ventilators.
Yeah,
they open them up. You know, they open them.
Okay, we don't have to know exactly what they did. We just know
they did something to it. The special educators have the plexiglass shields in front of them, and the nurse. These were some way back in the summertime. You know, our union president and representatives were saying, we're not going to go back until these things are met. With 6 feet apart, K-5 is back full time. There are about 10 to say 12 kids in a room because they started out hybrid, and cohort A and cohort B ended up being separate classrooms. So he hired more teachers. And they're in every room in the school.
Right. Mary, wasn't this what we were saying at the end of the summer? We don't need fewer educators.
Right.
more educators in order
Yeah.
to do this well.
That's
And
right.
it's
If we're going to cut
really-
class size in half, we
Yeah.
have to double the teaching force.
That's
Yeah.
right. And that's what they did in Medway.
Yep, that's what we did. And I mean, we're lucky that, you know, our superintendent believes in this and
Yeah.
is pushing, because his goal is he wants to get everybody back
Mhm.
to school.
Mhm.
But it's not going to happen until he said, you know, like, you know, we get our second vaccine, and
Right.
we'll roll it out slowly.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've made great progress, though.
So we are, yes.
Right.
That's terrific.
It's
Thank
the
you.
right thing to do, and
Yeah,
it's the necessary thing to do.
that's right.
So I want to thank all of you for being with us tonight. We're really coming to the end of the hour.
Yeah.
And I think, Beth, let's give a call to action right now.
Sure. Well, I need everybody to stay tuned. The AFT also will be distributing the ESSER money. This Saturday, we have an exec e-board meeting, and then after that, it'll be on our website, and everybody will know what is coming to their district that they can spend on these mitigation strategies, right? So this was a terrific forum. This is the third one, and we continue to be blown away by the combined expertise and knowledge reflected by the medical experts, as well as our educators and our nurses. They always bring personal experience, real life experience to these conversations.
That's right. And as educators, we know that knowledge is critical, but as unionists, we know that knowledge alone isn't enough. We have to act on that knowledge in a concerted, collective way to affect real change. So if you're a member of the MTA or the AFT Mass, your unions will be contacting you to enlist you in the collective actions that lie ahead, implementing a strong screen testing program that we talked about tonight, getting Secretary Sutters to give us the green light to work with the firefighters to get that shot into every arm of every educator, including higher ed workers, and fighting for the resources and colleges, the resources that our schools and colleges need to open safely, that address the immense academic and social emotional needs of our students.
Definitely. And I do want to say that we're going to be pulling in for the public librarians too, because they are face to face with the public. So please stay tuned for the call to action. We will be announcing our next forum, our fourth forum. What's the date of that? Oh my goodness, it's going to be March, but we'll
Yeah. I think
date.
it's the first Thursday in March. We're trying to make
That's
this
right.
regular the first Thursday of every month. So whatever,
Right.
I believe that's March 4th.
Excellent.
Yeah,
So that concludes our forum tonight. And thank you again for all you do. We do appreciate it. Our kids appreciate it. Our communities appreciate it. Stay tuned. Stay safe. Have a good
Stay connected in solidarity. Right. Good night, everybody.
everybody.